The Dallas-Fort Worth community always says yes to supporting elementary students, and now that yes can win you a brand new 2022 truck. DFW Yes provides school supplies to more than 78,000 students across Texas. Give your yes today by purchasing raffle tickets in our Drive Away for Education truck raffle sponsored by Thomas J. Henry. The grand prize winner will choose from a new Ram, Chevrolet, GMC, Ford, or Nissan truck. Plus, you could win a shopping spree or gas card. Purchase your raffle ticket today at dfwyes.org.
Today is Thursday, January 12th, 2023. 315 days until Thanksgiving. Happy birthday to TikTok star Deshaun Wilson, who turns 20 today.
Cool.
So, good for him. It's episode 1524. On today's show, folks, we're going to talk a little bit about TCU and whether or not we can expect a recruiting bump for them moving forward, coming off their college football playoff berth. I've crunched some numbers a little bit, and I think that the data is it's kind of interesting as far as whether or not TCU should expect their recruiting to take a leap. We will talk about that. And then back half the show, it's Dumb Thursday.
Dumb Thursday.
And I've got a football topic that I am hot about, and it's a dumb topic.
It is.
We'll talk about that coming up here at the back half of the program. Do we have first four through the door?
We sure do. It was Daniel Agnew, Nick Morton, Rob Hadaway, and Tony Blaylock. Welcome in, fellas.
Welcome in, friends. We appreciate your time. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about TCU. So the Horned Frogs are coming off of an historic.
It sounds dumb, but it's correct.
2022 season, where the Horned Frogs went through the regular season undefeated. The Horned Frogs came within a whisker of winning the Big 12 championship. They ended up being one of their two losses. And they became the first Texas team to play in the college football playoff. They became the first Texas team and the first Big 12 team to win a college football playoff game ever. They became the first Texas team since 2009 to play for a national championship. They became the first Texas team since, I believe, who was it? I guess it was, who was the last Heisman Trophy finalist?
Vince?
No, because Johnny won it.
Yeah,
RG3, but RG3 was before Johnny.
Yeah, because he was, 2013?
Yeah, Manziel. They had a Heisman finalist. It was, all I'm saying, I would need to look that up. It was an historic year for the TCU Horned Frogs. I know it didn't end the way they were hoping it would, but they have a lot to be really happy about. And one of the things that we've talked about kind of at length, and I think one of the perpetual dominance, like one of the mechanisms that allows for the same few teams to be dominant in Texas high school football, Texas college, or college football rather, not Texas football, college football, is that these teams get this big spotlight, and they go to the college football playoff, and that becomes a big recruiting tool for them, right? There's a reason that Alabama, there's a lot of reasons that Alabama keeps going to the college football playoff.
Yes.
But there's a reason that it kind of feeds on itself, right? They've been a lot. Georgia has been a lot. These programs that have been, Georgia has been, Alabama's been 7 times, Clemson's been 6 times, Ohio State's been 5 times, Oklahoma's been 4 times, Georgia's been 3 times, et cetera, right? And it's easy to see in the recruiting rankings that they are recruiting. Now, they've recruited well before then, they will recruit well after then, but certainly one of the arguments for an expanded playoff has been
we just keep seeing the same teams over and over.
If you give teams this, only a few teams have this weapon in their arsenal in the recruiting battles of saying, we've played in the college football playoff, so we're on that short list. You should come if you want to play in the college football playoff. We've proven we can do it. So I think that's another reason for excitement for TCU fans is the idea that, yes, we played in the college football playoff, and hopefully that will mean more recruiting wins down the road. So is that true? Should we expect TCU's recruiting to to take a bump, to get a bump. Now, I think that you can look at what they've been able to do in recruiting this year in the 2023 class and be pretty happy with it if you're a TCU fan. They have according to 247 Sports, they have the 19th ranked recruiting class in the nation.
Yeah, that's huge because, I mean, I think you go back, what was it, when they went to, like, when they took, like, the seniors of this year's class, they were 47th, maybe? That might even be a little bit high.
Right. They've got the top 20 recruiting class coming in. That's the third best recruiting class in the Big 12, only behind Texas and Oklahoma. You take that. That's pretty darn good.
And
for
both
TCU.
of those teams are going to peace out.
Absolutely. Right. So right now, of the teams that are staying in the Big 12,
They've got
you
the best
have
one.
the best recruiting class. That's great. So I wanted to take a look at what we can expect, what a college football playoff berth does for your recruiting. And what I did was I took a look at don't put it up yet, but I took a look at the recruiting rankings for teams that made the college football playoff. I looked at the 2 years prior to them making the college football playoff, what their team rankings were according to 247, right, national ranking. What their recruiting ranking was the year they made the playoff, right? So as you're going on this run, how well are you recruiting that year? And then I took a look at what their recruiting ranking was the year after that, okay? But I didn't do this for everybody because there's no real point in doing it for Alabama.
Yeah, you're just going to see probably a lot of ones, maybe a 2 or 3.
Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, the teams that have been there before. And really, I do not think, all due respect to TCU, they hope to get to that echelon. I do not think that TCU is comparable to those programs right now.
You got a lot to prove before then.
Right. I don't think TCU is comparable to Ohio State right now. I just don't think. I'm sorry if that's offensive to somebody, but I think it's the truth. There are, I think, 3 teams that have made the college football playoff that are comparable. They are teams that, in my mind, have only made the college football playoff once, like TCU, and they are not big name brand programs. So, for example, Oregon has only made the college football playoff once. I think we would all agree they're a name brand program, big name brand program. LSU won a national championship. Florida State, I think, still they're a bit of the, they are kind of a big name brand program. Right?
Especially the time that they made it, they had been a name brand program for a while.
They were the defending national champions.
Yeah.
Right. Under Jimbo Fisher. So I think there are three teams that are comparable to TCU that I think we can glean something from what their recruiting did before, during, and after their college football playoff berth. It's 2015 Michigan State, 2016 Washington, and 2021 Cincinnati. I think those are the most comparable programs to what we saw in TCU. So take a look at what the recruiting looked like for these teams. So for Michigan, and I think it's a bit of a mixed bag, we'll take the good, okay? With Washington, 2016. Washington, the 2 years before they go to the college football playoff, their ranking was about 27.5. They ranked 27th and a half as far as team rankings is concerned nationally, okay? According to 247. The year in 2016, so the class of 2017, the class of 2017 ranked 22nd. So a nice little bump above average. And they have been able to continue that. The year after, the class of 2018, they ranked 16th. So they parlayed that into 2 really good recruiting classes. The year they went to the college football playoff, and the year after, they parlayed them into good recruiting. I want to take a look at 2021 Cincinnati next. So 2021 Cincinnati is interesting. Obviously, they were the first
Group of
5 team to make the playoff. There are some extenuating circumstances with them because of that, and there's another one we'll talk about in a moment. The 2 years prior to going to the college football playoff, they ranked 43rd on average in recruiting rankings.
Which realistically is still higher than TCU was with this current senior class, I guess you could say.
The year that they went to the college football playoff, they took a very small bump to 42nd. So there wasn't much of a recruiting bump for the class of 2022 based on their college football playoff berth. The year after their playoff berth, which would be this current class of 2023, which is not settled yet, but it ranks 57th. I put an asterisk there for a reason, which is they're going through a coaching change. Luke Fickell left to go on take over at Wisconsin. They've hired in Scott Satterfield from Louisville to take over that job. And so as a result, there are moving parts there that I think I give them a little bit of a pass. I do not know if that is necessarily the most
accurate.
Yeah, and I would say reflective and comprehensive measurement there. So that's why I put a little bit asterisk. If I'm a TCU fan, I think there's two paths. The one that you would prefer to go down is the 2016 Washington one. The cautionary tale is 2015 Michigan State. Shout out Mallory Hartley. 2015 Michigan State. The 2 years before they go to the playoff, they ranked about 24th and a half, right? Between 24th and 25th. Okay? Top 25, but barely. The year they go to the playoffs, the class of 2016, they ranked 17th in recruiting. Nice little bump. But they almost immediately fell back to earth and actually got worse. They ranked 36th the year after their playoff berth in the class of 2017. So to me, by looking at these three programs, I think you have one that you can, I don't want to say throw out, but you can certainly take with a grain of salt in 2021 Cincinnati, where they got mildly better and then the recruiting got worse. But extenuating circumstances there, group of 5 program, new coach, etc. If you are a TCU fan, I think you're looking at 2016 Washington and saying that's what we want to be.
Yes.
Power 5 program, cracks the college football playoff, sees an immediate recruiting boost, and then the recruiting boost maintains and continues going forward.
Right.
The path you don't want to go down is 2015 Michigan State, where recruiting got the 1 year sugar high, but then fell back to earth, and in many respects got worse. So is TCU going to see a recruiting boost? That is something that remains to be seen, and I think will be a really interesting kind of thing to track. How well does that college football playoff berth resonate in recruiting battles?
I also think that if you just look at the two programs, they are most like Washington with like what's going on around them, as in they're not a group of 5 school like Cincinnati. That has something to do with it, where your coaches are poached a lot quicker when you start having success. I would also say that Michigan State being in the Big Ten, you know how difficult of a conference that is. Washington being in the Pac-12 and TCU being in this new look Big 12, I feel like those are the two most comparable conferences, on top of like being able to take a step up and say, hey, we want to be the top dog of this conference. Michigan State would have had to make light years of a jump to do that.
Okay. I hear you. Let me play devil's advocate, because I don't disagree with your point, but let me play devil's advocate here.
Okay.
I think geographically, and this is going to sound crazy, follow me on this. Geographically, TCU is more like Michigan State in the sense of they are in a state that they are not the number 1 recruiting destination.
True.
They are in an area where they are consistently having to battle the big dogs, as opposed to Washington, where they're on the West Coast. Yes, you have to deal with USC, and yes, you have to deal with a couple of other programs there. But if you're Washington and you've got prospects along the West Coast, you better be in every battle.
Yeah.
And so I would say that from that perspective, I wonder if Michigan State's the better comp.
Yep.
I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think time will tell.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I've said this before, my main point about recruiting is that recruits want to go play for a winning program. That's it. If TCU keeps winning, the recruits are going to come. But I do think that that's interesting, that I kind of assumed that, like, oh, you get the college football playoff berth and, like, zoom, you keep on going. But for those programs, it's been more of a mixed bag. And we'll find out whether or not that actually resonates for
that
TCU
would be interesting to see, like, 2 years pass, too. Like, okay, if you had more, you might not have made the playoff, but if you had consistent success in the following year afterwards, because there was a good point made that, like, basically the year that you make the playoff, your recruiting is almost already pretty much buttoned up by the time the playoff happens.
Yes.
So it's like 2 years out would be telling too.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Anyway, there you go. There's
Well,
a
we
look
hope for
at
continued
TCU's
success.
college football playoff berth, whether or not it will resonate with recruiting. Hey, thanks for watching this clip here on YouTube. If you like this kind of stuff and you want more of it, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And remember, you can watch us live every weekday at noon at texasfootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, or here on YouTube. And if you want more of the best coverage of football in the state of Texas, check out texasfootball.com and become a Dave Campbell's Texas Football Insider at texasfootball.com/subscribe.